Good afternoon. We are living in Novueval times. There is a 1973 MIT study that says around or by 2040 there will be widespread societal collapse. And the factors that they used for this study did not even take into account climate change and declining sperm count because those were not known in those days. But we're going to go over that. And basically, the thrust of this video is going to be about being prepared and starting now, getting ready for that, because it may take you that long to be prepared for what's coming down. And preparedness for me, for the sake of this video, is mental preparedness mostly. It's just being in the mindset where you're willing to accept this is the way things are. You're not burning up a lot of psychological energy, laying blame, or being concerned about anything but this is the reality. How do I deal with it? And I know I have a lot of problems with that myself, and I am struggling to change that. And I know how hard that can be, at least for certain people. So I want to help others at least start down that path because I know just coming to the conclusion, this is a major problem in my life. How I think, how I view things, why I react to events instead of respond to events. And this is, given all the changes that I'm trying to make to better the quality of my life, it all starts with how do I think? What's wrong with it? How do I change it? And that is incredibly hard, but it is also incredibly worthwhile to just endeavor to start wherever you're at and begin to change. So I'm going to cover a bunch of topics, and I will just list those right now here at the beginning. Uh, and the biggest and foremost problem we have is with what we call capitalism. It's not capitalism. It is what I call a carnival freak show of an economic system we euphemistically call capitalism or kafoa-esquek. So what we practice is kafoa-esquek, a carnival freak show of an economic system we euphemistically call capitalism. It is not capitalism. As a matter of fact, it's socialism for the rich. Let's put it this way. It's the benefits of the best of socialism for the rich, while it's all the struggles and hardships of capitalism for everyone else. And just to give you an inkling as to why I feel this way, and then you can agree or disagree, that's up to you, that's fine. But just in terms of subsidies and bailouts and all of the other forms of corporate welfare that we practice in terms of tax breaks and everything like that, this is the government directly deciding who is going to get money and benefit from the resources that we have in this country and where that's going to come from. That is the exact definition of socialism. Socialism is from those according to their abilities to those according to their needs, with the caveat that somebody's going to be making those decisions. Who are the ones who have the ability and who are the ones who have the need? And unfortunately, that's always going to fall upon some governing body. And as all governments are made up of humans, and humans are incredibly flawed creatures, government will be incredibly flawed and make incredibly flawed decisions given that. So, from each according to their ability, which is always going to be the easiest to steal from, the weakest and most vulnerable, to those according to their need, whom are always going to be the most powerful, i.e., the ones who actually have no needs because they got those powers through the vast resources they have already accumulated. The stuff that we are given to the elite and corporations in this country in the name of capitalism, but which we now know is not capitalism, is just in and of itself destroying this country. But it doesn't stop there. There are many other factors involved, all of which play upon each other, and as we shall see, are leading to this 2040 societal collapse. But I want to take this time to get back to where I started, which was mindset, and how important I think this is, regardless of whether there's any kind of widespread societal collapse or just any kind of pandemic type situation or a hurricane or the grid goes down for even a couple of days, much less a week, or times are absolutely perfect. Everything that you could possibly ask for, you still have to have a good mindset to see you through any last little thing. Even when things are going perfectly well, you could be living in the past or the future, not enjoying the moment, and just being miserable. And what I'm going to be speaking of, if and when times do go south, which I think they're going to, and I think they're going to in a big way over a long span of time. This is not going to be an overnight thing. I want you to keep in mind also that whenever things start to go haywire, regardless of what that is, whatever the event or situation or circumstances happen to be, a great amount of the time, what people suffer is much more just the stress of the situation, and more so the public perception of how bad things are, and the mania and the panic, just the mass psychosis. And let me tell you what brought me to this point, which is making this video. On top of going through this change in thinking, mostly so I can just get more stuff done. Art, music, making videos, whatever. Just being productive, how that looks to me, regardless of what anyone else thinks. I wasn't doing it, and I didn't know why I wasn't doing it. You could just throw out laziness or unmotivated or unenthusiastic or anything like that. But I needed to find out, what's going on up here, that there are certain things I want to do, and yet there's still going on up here something that says, nah, don't do those things. Do this waste of time thing over here instead. And as I was learning that, which meant I was starting to get more things done, and if anybody's been watching any of my videos and has seen that in the background, you're wondering, when is this dude going to finish that painting? I've had the idea for that painting for decades, literally decades, before I even got started on it. So yeah, it's been slow going, but at least I've started it. It's about halfway done now. So that's more than I did for 2 decades. And also, in my defense, it took Leonardo 15 years to complete the Mona Lisa. So, even these people that we think are these incredibly productive geniuses, they can procrastinate also. But going back to, I was changing my mindset, and one of the things that I was doing in terms of that was, I want to do more of the creative stuff. That's important to me. But also, I need to face physical reality. That's first and foremost. And I live in Florida. And if you're not prepared for the next hurricane season, or you're not preparing for the next hurricane season, there's just something wrong with you. I mean, unless you absolutely have no resources and can't do anything, you should at least understand the basics and start thinking about those and doing something along those lines. So I started preparing. And this was at the end of 2019. So at the beginning of 2020, I had a couple of weeks of food put away. I had toilet paper and paper towels. I happened to have a bunch of masks because I was doing woodworking, so I had masks. I had plenty of water stored away. Most of it I would just use for washing, hopefully, if things got that bad, because unless it's stainless steel or glass, I just don't want to store it for drinking because plastic is bad. The thing is, I had a bunch of stuff stored when the pandemic hit. Even as they were just starting to talk about what was coming down the pike, people were going crazy. they were going through periods of temporary insanity. Just this notion that if you don't have too much of something, you don't have enough of something. The point I'm making is the shelter in place started coming along. I mean, they started talking about it before they said, yeah, we need to do this. Only essential workers are going to be out there doing work. And, you know, the whole thing more or less came to a grinding halt for a moment anyways. But when that hit, I had everything I needed to go at least a couple of weeks, probably closer to a month, without anything except if they, for whatever reason, shut the water off. Uh, then that would have been a problem. Electricity, well, that really would have sucked if the power went down, but I could have gotten through. I'm here in Miami, so it's never going to get so cold I'm going to freeze to death. And I've got a little propane burner, so yeah, besides the fact that I've got a refrigerator that needs electricity, I would have to just eat canned and you know, container food for however long it took for the grid to go back up. But the short of it is, I had no qualms about what was going down at that time because I was prepared. So many other people who weren't prepared and were freaking out took this, what would have been a relatively minor event in this country's history, had there not been this mass psychosis, and turned it into this overblown thing that, in fact, was a major event in this country's history. And I think that's a very good example of anytime anything happens, the people who are not prepared, first and foremost mentally, but secondly, if they're not prepared in terms of material stuff, they are the ones who are going to start causing havoc. And that's why the more people who are prepared, the better it is for everybody. And that's why I'm trying to instill this sense of, we need to start thinking about this. We don't want to be the ones who go crazy the next time something happens, and something will happen. This is not a doom and gloom. This is not the sky is falling type of thing. We live in the real universe. Things happen. That's all there is to it. I'm not, at this point in the video, I'm not making any predictions and saying this is going to happen and it's going to happen like this and you need to have this stuff and you need... Things are going to happen. There are floods. There are severe rains. There are severe snowfalls. There are hurricanes. There are tornadoes. There are earthquakes. There are droughts. There is this, that, and the other. These things happen, and to varying degrees of severity. So you never know what the next thing is going to be or how bad it's going to be, only that it's going to be. And the more prepared you are in terms of material stuff, but even more importantly, in terms of this up here, so that you don't panic regardless of circumstances, because whatever you're going through, whatever you need to do next to get through whatever you're going through, you need to be as level-headed as possible. The moment you start to panic, whatever you're dealing with just gets magnitude times worse, and that might mean the difference between being able to accomplish whatever small goals, tasks, or chores you have to do to get to the next step, and not accomplishing those things, and just basically not surviving. In terms of that, the biggest factor is going to be, what is your mindset? What is your mindset at any point, whether you're high on the hog or whether you're absolutely just flat out struggling, facing challenges like you never knew the degree of, and that a human could possibly live through this stuff. And that is the big thing. Getting your head to a space where you know whatever you come up against, you're just going to try your damnedest without freaking out about it, and whatever happens, happens. And getting your head to that space is an incredibly tough chore. My main thing, of all the things I'm trying to accomplish through the tools and all the videos that I've watched concerning like motivation, discipline, this, that, and the other, preparation, everything in terms of quality of life or being able to handle situations or whatever it happens to be. the biggest thing that I've gotten out of all of this stuff is having a degree of mental fortitude and always working on increasing that. And that is the basic, most important thing that I focus on from day to day. And I'm not talking about every moment of every day, but that's more or less at the top of my mind. Whatever I'm going through, whatever I'm trying to accomplish, whether I'm living through a period of joy or incredible suffering, it always comes back to I need to increase my mental fortitude. And even in moments of joy, when everything's going right and your brain couldn't be happier, the thought of how can I have this mindset when times are really bad? That's mental fortitude. That's where I'm trying to be. These two guys, videos that I just recently saw with links down below, Canadian Prepper, the link for his video. In this one, he's talking about basically mental preparation and mental preparation through realistic, positive thinking. That's what I got out of it in a nutshell. It's much more complex than that. It's not as narrowly focused as how I described it, but I think that's the gist of it. He does a very good job. So it's not about material stuff. It's not about food, and it's not about clothes and having a backup generator and all of the other stuff that most preppers will almost immediately begin to talk about. You need this, 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 this. You need to have level-headedness regardless of what you have, because, and this is my point, whatever happens, whenever, times can be perfectly smooth. The politics can be going all right, which of course we don't have now. The weather and the climate could have been adjusted, and it looks like we're back to what we had for the couple centuries leading up to the Industrial Revolution, when it started to change on us. In short, everything I'm going to talk, the whole long list of everything I'm going to talk about later, if none of those conditions existed and everything was just perfect for everybody, you could be on a hike out in the wilderness and get separated from your group and have nothing with you. What are you going to do? Okay, it starts right here. First of all, don't panic. You need to consider, what are the skills that I have? What do I need straight up, right off? How cold is it going to get? Where is water? What do I know about wild edible foods? But all of that stuff is in fact built upon the mental fortitude, and for me, with that, mental fortitude means a certain belief that if I have in fact learned some knowledge and some skills, regardless of how bad the situation is, I can survive it. I can get through it. I can get to civilization again. It's a certain sense of trust in myself that no matter how bad things are, there's somewhere inside of me that can figure this whole thing out and get me through it. And just a certain belief that I've been through a lot of things that were like harder than things that I had ever done before, and would not have, before doing them, thought I could accomplish those things. Those are just experiences which have taught me I cannot push myself as hard as I can be pushed by other people or unexpected conditions. But knowing that I've been in those unexpected conditions or been pushed that hard, I can actually do those things. And that's part of the mental preparation also, knowing that however much discomfort I might have to experience, I've been through a lot of that. And yeah, it's called discomfort for a very good reason, and nobody really likes it. But if you're familiar with it, the word is even worse than the actual experience. The thoughts of what it would be like to live that life is actually worse coming from a place of comfort than it is to actually live that life, because once you start doing it, you get used to it rather quick. When it's forced upon you, you would be incredibly surprised at the amount of resilience that you have within you. Because when you look at that kind of lifestyle, when, for example, anybody else is living it because they choose to or it's forced upon them, you think, my God, nobody should have to go through that. But if it ever comes down the pike and you find yourself in that same situation, you would be surprised at how much resilience you have and what you can go through and not only survive, but actually find moments of joy in there, especially when you're dealing with something with other people who are going through the same thing. So, anyways, Canadian Prepper, he's got a link down below. And also, while we're talking about that, another video that I just found, I had not heard of this guy before, but I'm going to look up more of his stuff because I really liked what he had to say. Dave Canterbury. He talks more about material preparation, but he's got a different take on it from most of the other guys that I've seen who have EDCs, which is everyday carry. Guys that are focused on like modern tools and gadgets and stuff like that they consider to be absolutely essential. Like, you have to have these things. You have to carry them with you every day. This Dave Canterbury, he had a much, I thought, he had a much better take on that. His mindset was more, I want rugged, old-fashioned tools that you can use by hand and make anything you need to make out of steel and or wood. And you'd have to listen to him. He does about a 45-minute talk, but he was very convincing in that this is the way we lived for centuries, actually over a millennia, concerning like the Iron Age. And going before that, when it was the Stone Age, so basically all you had was wood and stone. Well, it wasn't the Stone Age. I mean, you go back through the metals. There was the Bronze Age, Copper Age, so on. But the thing was, we have lived for an incredibly long time with just the most basic of tools and been able to do some incredible stuff with just those basic tools. So I think having the mindset of, okay, it's not going to be fun because I'm used to having computers and this, that, and the other to make life easier. If I have to go back to the Iron Age, that's going to suck. Well, yeah, it will for a moment. There's going to be a period of adjustment. But if everybody has to do that and we're all doing the same thing, people will help each other out. We will figure this out. But I am going to leave this here at this point because I am going to make this 2 parts. I'm going to do another video. This has become longer and more complicated than I envisioned when I started. But the main point I'm trying to get across, the thing that I'm trying to do is change the mindset. And I think it's going to become ever more important as we go down the road, because it is my firm belief that things are going to continue to get worse before they start to get better again. And this could be a very long time. So we're going to have to just give up notions that we have about how we live, what we need to live, what we do day to day. But I think this can best be summed up by a scene in a book I once read. It was fiction, and I can't remember the particulars, but I think it was a Navajo talking to a friend, relating a story he heard as a boy that had happened like generations before, just part of the lore of his culture. But what he was taught was that I believe it was some Comanches came to these Navajos, this tribe that he belonged to, and made them a present of some horses, which they were unfamiliar with. And the Comanches said, with these horses, you're going to have to change your religion, because these horses are going to change your way of life. And I remember that. It struck me how when we go through a quick development in our culture, we have to change the way we think because the culture changes. And this is what we're going to be dealing with. We're going to be dealing with a quick change in the culture. And by quick, I'm thinking it's going to take a century for things to shake out before it gets as bad as it's going to get, and we've gone down as far as we're going to go down. But the thing is, in that century, people are going to have to change their mindset in terms of what is important, what is necessary, what is right, what is good. Basically, kind of a religious philosophy, whether you think you have any religion or not. You know, call it a lifestyle philosophy, call it whatever you want to describe those things that you believe in. But the whole belief system we have, based on the stuff we have because of the technological age that we live in, that's all going to change. And the sooner we just get used to that and accept it, the better off we'll be. Just right off the bat, looking at the transportation and supply issues that we're suffering, empty shelves, the price of everything going up. Complaining about it isn't going to change it. There may be some things we can do to fix it. It may continue like this and get worse, which is what I think is going to happen. And I don't think it's just going to go straight down, you know, like an opposite of the graph we're used to. Everything's always going up and to the right. It's not just going to slide down this steep slope. It's going to be up and down, but it's continuing to go down. That's what we have to deal with. You either accept it, develop the mental fortitude to find that as we have this new style of life, things are not continually getting better in terms of material wealth, material stuff, always more and new things. Things are getting worse in that there's going to be less. And the more we figure out how to do things to bring stuff into our life that we need or want, the better off we'll be, because expecting China and Walmart to supply us with everything is not the way things are going to be in the future. Granted, I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but all the indications are, over time, everything is going to get worse until it gets better. Developing a mindset where you accept that and can thrive even as there's less stuff all the time, this is what I'm asking of myself. And if I can develop that mindset where I can still thrive even as there's less stuff all the time, if it turns out that there isn't less stuff all the time, then how much better even will my mindset be? We'll see what happens. There are no guarantees either way, but all indications are we've screwed up whole environments across the world, and we're starting to pay the price, and we're going to continue to pay the price for some time to come because we're not changing our ways. If the more savvy among us learn to at least change the way we think, it's not going to be nearly as bad as it sounds. It's up to you. I will continue this on another video. I'm going to go through all the things that have been pointed out by pretty much scholarly organizations or think tanks or scientists and even economists. But this is stuff that is all out there. This is not stuff being made up of the whole cloth. These are things that people have been saying. This is not the way you do things. This is not going to work. Let's examine it in the next video. Go over it, each one by one, and see where we're at. And again, you know, none of the think tanks or economists or scientists or anyone know exactly what the future is going to bring. All we know is where we've been and what we did then, where we are and what we're doing now, and where that looks like it's taking us. We have at least that much information to go on. So I thank you for watching, and if you didn't watch, well then, what's wrong with you, man? All right, I'll see you in the next one.